Welcome to Focus. My name is Leroy Smith, and with me I have Miss Amanza Walton-Desir. She is the presidential candidate for Forward Guyana Movement, a new political party that has been launched to contest the 2025 general and regional elections. Miss Amanza, welcome to Big Smith News Watch. Welcome to Focus.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Certainly a pleasure to be here and to sit and talk with you.
All right, so I don't want to rehash anything that might have been said before in other interviews and so on. We're heading down to crunch time for E-Day, and I would like you to tell the Guyanese people why they need to vote for you and your team and your party. What do you have in store for this country should you become the president of Guyana?
Well, certainly, thank you for the opportunity. And as you have said, yes, we're coming down to crunch time. I believe that it is time for real change, not just an exchange, but real meaningful change. And for us to be able to do that, we have to appreciate where we are as a nation. As a nation, we've had one political system for the last 60 years, since our independence. We'll be 60 years soon. And what we've seen is a winner-takes-all system that continues to leave half of the country behind. And that has to change. And so our message to you is simple. For Guyana to get what she has never gotten, for us to be where we've never been, we have to be able to do and take actions that we've never taken. What do I mean by that? I mean that we have to collectively break the back of winner-takes-all politics. And so for us, we are saying that it is time that Guyana moves forward. Now, importantly, I'll repeat, we cannot do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. For so long, we have been forced into two camps. You pick a side, proceed. And we continue cycle after cycle with the same type of politics, where you go into the parliament and somebody that has 51% of the say, of the votes rather, has 100% of the say. They couch it this way: you will have your say, but we will have our way. Well, we're saying to you that it is time for Guyana to win. And so we are here. We are offering Forward Guyana Movement as a credible option of a collection of people that will fight for you and will fight for this nation. We believe that there needs to be stronger representation at all levels of government, in the executive, in the legislature, at the regional level, and indeed to down to the local democracy. And so what we're saying, it is time for Guyana to win, and to do that, we want to be able to allow Guyanese people to have a multiplicity of political parties. And I'll tell you why this is important. We have a history of ethnic strife and division in this country. We have a history where traditionally the two giants, their base factually comprises a particular core of ethnic support. And from the time I was a little girl, it has always been you choose a side. And forcing us into those two camps continues to perpetuate this race-based voting, the ethnic tension that we're seeing. Our dream for Guyana is that we get this country to a point where we are able to have power returned to the people. Our pillar and our vision for that is constitutional reform. And that is what we pledge to fight for. Because everything that any Guyanese could want, the good quality of life that they seek, the health care, the education, the quality of life for every Guyanese is inextricably bound up in the political system. And our message is simple: the political system is broken and we have to fix it, Big Smith.
All right. So you have some nice ideas. The question will always be asked, or it will be put to you, like I'm putting to you now, that you came from one of the bigger camps. And as you alluded to, the two main camps. And so you came from the APNU, AFC coalition. The question will be asked, why are these things that you advocate now were not advocated, or if they were, why weren't steps taken to move in that direction. And I speak here from the position of legislation, attempting to.
Absolutely. And it's a very, very valid question. And Forward Guyana was born precisely because I was in the system, precisely because I understand more intimately than most people that we cannot perpetuate this cycle. I've said, because the question has been asked, okay, well, why didn't you just wait and bide your time and so on and so forth? And the reality is, Big Smith, the problems that Guyana has, they don't wait. They don't tell you, wait your turn. The reality is that for the last 5 years, I've stood as a member of parliament, made, I believe, cogent recommendations, and nothing changed. Nothing is accepted because the paradigm of governance in this country is zero sum. It is winner takes all. And so for me, stepping out of one of the giants, it took introspection and deliberation, and I had to make a decision that this is not about me and being comfortable. This is about bringing meaningful change to Guyana. And you have asked an important question. Why wasn't this advanced then? Well, it was advanced. But now you are hearing it more because I am the leader of a movement that is advocating for this. The other issue in terms of legislation is constitutional reform, as you are aware as a journalist in this country, has been something that has been spoken about by all, both sides
Without
of the political
action,
divide.
without-
And then we come, we stand on ceremony, we grandstand, and nothing ever gets done. Because when you get into the seat of power, that executive power is really, really good, right? Because the constitutional setup that we have, the president is
The president.
almost godlike in the powers that he has. And so when you taste of that, it is very difficult, and understandably, it is human nature that you don't want to give that up. Our message to the people of Guyana is that you have to force us to sit at the table, because there clearly is not existing on either side right now of the big camps the political will to change this constitution or to change our laws in a manner that would ensure that Guyanese have a greater say. As it stands right now, we believe that if you want to represent Region 6, you must first convince the people of Region 6, for example, that you are worthy of their vote and support. Right now, somebody, and it does not necessarily have to even be a person from Region 6, because a list can take a person and assign them to a geographic constituency, which is why Gail Teixeira, for example, can represent Region 8. And so there's so much wrong with the political system, and it has been perpetuated because up until now, political parties have not had the courage to stand and to challenge it. So we are challenging it. Now, I'll show you a very simple intervention that could change just the way politics operates in Guyana. Suriname, for example, coalitions are possible after elections. Here, they're not possible. And with just that amendment, we could make sure that we literally as a population compel politicians to work together in our interests, simply by changing that provision and ensuring that if it is the desire of the people of Guyana that no one party should form the government and get all the power, that you can't go into power unless you have the support and votes from other smaller parties. That is what is obtained in Suriname, for example, where even though the largest older party won, I think it maybe have been 17 seats, they couldn't form the government without consulting with 3 or 4 other small parties. And so you force them to work together. You force shared governance, because it is obvious that the crop of people who have been at this, they're not interested in giving reform to the people of Guyana, so the people of Guyana have to demand it.
What will be your position if you miss the presidency, but you achieve a parliamentary space? What will be Forward Guyana's position while occupying that space in the National Assembly?
To advocate for the people of Guyana, not for a party, because as it stands right now, you are in jeopardy of running afoul of quote unquote the party line. If something is there and you genuinely believe that this is not in the best interest of the people of Guyana, I think what people will never what they've not known up until now, because I'll say it now, is that many times in my advocacy, I have had to walk the very fine line of disagreeing with some things, but having to stand and respect the fact that I am in Parliament based on the votes cast by the people for this party. Do you understand what I mean? So for me, it is about having the freedom to advocate once and for all for what is best for the people of Guyana and holding all man Jack accountable.
And that advocacy will see support going in any direction in the National Assembly once it's within the interests of for the people?
I have said this very, very clearly, even while in opposition. And for people who have been following my presentations, where there is a commendable initiative from the government, I have been able to say very clearly, this is good, but this is how we can improve this. Because I do not believe in being in opposition just for the sake of opposing. It is counterproductive to the development of the country. We have to begin to inculcate this paradigm that says, if this is good, we keep it. Let's see how we can build on it.
What has the response been like? I can't recall seeing any major rallies, but I've been seeing community meetings. Mm-hmm. What has the response been like from these communities that you've been visiting?
Incredible. Look, the fact that we were able within 21 days to raise candidates in 7 regions, as well as the 200 minimum signatures that are required, and to raise a national top-up list and the 400 almost signatures that are required, should indicate to anybody looking on that there is clearly a desire in the hearts of Guyanese for change. Guyanese know that they want change. What they have lacked is a group of people who have the courage to say, you know what? We will champion that change. And that is what Forward Guyana is simply saying. So the result has been tremendous. We are a people-powered force, as we call it. So we've not been engaging in the big rallies because we like the door-to-door approach.
Is it a case of like or financing, absence of financing?
You know, it is a case that we like the door-to-door approach. We like to be able to sit and to hear and to stand and to speak to our constituents, to citizens. What do you think? What are your concerns? What are your fears? And a lot of that sometimes doesn't happen in rallies where people are just standing and shouting at you and pushing their ideas to you. We listen. We really want to listen. Now, that is not to say that rallies, etc., don't have their place as it relates to galvanizing your supporters, as it relates to building the energy heading into elections. Certainly, it has its place. And so, come Saturday, the 30th, we're going to have our final briefing before the elections. And so supporters of Forward Guyana, anyone who wants to come out to hear the message and to participate, we're inviting you to Burnham Court on Saturday. It starts from 4:30. We're going to be there throughout the evening, just interacting with people and continuing to push the message of change and of hope.
So I have 2 other questions. Mm-hmm. One, going back to what you said about the party's ability to get the signatures required, mm-hmm. The national top-up list and so on. You have a matter that was there is a matter that was taken to the court. Mm-hmm. Well, GCOM was taken to court by your organization, by Forward Guyana Movement. And this has to do with something being left off from the ballot papers in some regions. You want to explain in layman's term, but in a synopsis way,
Yeah.
what
I
really motivated
absolutely can. And I want to be clear that it is a citizen that took GCOM to court.
Okay.
A citizen
I stand corrected.
that is actually a candidate, but it has not been taken to court from the perspective of Forward Guyana Movement. And I'm so glad that you've given me the opportunity to explain this. Leroy, the crux of the matter is this. The case, this issue, this matter has never mattered before because the two giants have always been able to raise candidates in all 10 geographic constituencies, so it never came up for consideration. But if you go to the Representation of the People's Act, that act says that for a political party to compete in the general and regional elections, it must at a minimum field candidates or field lists from a minimum of 6 geographic constituencies, and not just any 6, but those 6 geographic constituencies must account for 13 seats. That is the entry requirement for the general elections. And it makes absolute sense because remember the way we vote, you put your X 2 places. The bottom X is to determine who will run the RDCs, who gets to be the regional chair, how many councillors you have, etc. The top part is a 2-part election. There's a general election, which if you have met the minimum requirements, you are entitled to enter, and at which level the president is elected. Then there is the geographic constituency, which accounts for 25 of the seats in the National Assembly, which is 65. So the geographic portion, even if you compete in all 10, only accounts for 25 of the seats. So what happens to the other 40? How do you access that? This is why ROPA, the Representation of the People Act, says if you participate in this minimum, you are entitled to participate in the general. GCOM itself published that guidance. If you look at the graphic that GCOM published, you will see that they have admitted there are 3 types of elections. A general election, and when you look at their graphic, you see every party qualifies for it. Why? Because they've met the minimum requirement. And then the geographic portion, obviously, if you don't field geographic candidates, you cannot expect a geographic seat, but you can expect one of the 40 seats. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then thirdly, there's a regional part for who will control the RDCs. So our contention is this. Having met the minimum requirements to participate in the general election, the only way that that can happen is if you are admitted onto the ballot. Because in reality, what should happen is that there should be 3 separate ballots. One for the general, which you qualify for if you meet the minimum of 6. One for the geographic, which would be for 25 of the seats. And then one for the regional. But for administrative convenience, the law has fused the 2 into 1. So it's very simple. If you don't qualify or if you don't field a geographic candidate, you are exempt from claiming one of the 25 seats available to there. But you are not precluded from accessing one of the 40 seats available. And so by taking us off of the ballot in regions 7, 8, and 9, because we did not compete for one of the 25 in the geographic constituency, GCOM misinterpreted the law. GCOM, by its own guidance material, now contravenes itself. So what we're saying is, and we're not the only people suffering from this, ALP has also met the minimum requirements, but they're off the ballot. So the result of it is that there are over 100,000 Guyanese who do not have the full menu of choices when they are entitled to it at the national level. It's very simple. GCOM never had to deal with the matter. And so because it has never been contested, because PPP, PNC have always been able to field 10 geographic regions, it didn't matter. And this is why I appreciate the Fort Guyana movement, because we are going to ask the hard questions. We are going to pioneer and champion clarification of our legal framework. And so I note that Anil Nandlal has said in the media that the case is frivolous, it's vexatious, etc. Yet Anil Nandlal asked to be joined in the case. And this is what upsets me, Big Smith, about the dishonesty of the politicians that we have in our ranks today. They stand and they say one thing to the public, and then they go into the courts, and because they understand the severity of what is at stake, they want to make submissions. So he was in there this morning, he was in there yesterday, and I'll put on record my absolute disappointment at his decorum.
What was that?
It was rowdy. He was interrupting. It was disturbing to see that is our Attorney General, you know. And in his submissions, he's making statements like, "Well, if they don't appear on the ballot, vote for the PPPC. They're the better choice anyway." And I suppose at some level that may appeal to people who don't understand the seriousness of what governance and nation building is about.
So the court allowed.
The court allowed it. Court allowed it, and I sat there and I was like, "Wow." So if you have that attitude in open court, in front of all of the observers, then what must be your private mindset?
Okay, so I want to ask you one final question. I have not received a call, but I am aware of people who have been receiving calls from the People's Progressive Party, which is something that is done in the U.S. I told somebody it's called campaigning, and so you will call. It's like when the Congress gets ready to pass a bill or something, you know, congressmen and so on will call the people in their area. Should we vote for this? Would you like us to vote for it, and so on? So we have that type of campaigning being done by the People's Progressive Party Civic here in Guyana. I want to know, what are your views on it? And I'm asking this question against the backdrop that people who receive these calls, they're not certain of how their information was accessed.
We have, in fact, written to all of the observer missions, pointing out that what the government is in essence doing is utilizing state data for electoral purposes. Because we also have recordings of calls where people say, "Oh, we got your number from the cash grant information." And so many of us will recall that when you registered for the cash grant, you had to give your current phone number. And so they've been using that information. How have they been able to access it? The PPP has blurred the line between party and state. And so the point is, as well, that you're right, tele-campaigning is done in other parts of the world. But you know what's the difference? The information is equally accessible across the playing field. That is not the case. That is not the case here. And so if the PPP wants to have that information used, make it available. The state must make it available to all of the political parties so that they could call as well. And so there's the blurring of the state and the party. And that continues to be an issue. Access to state media continues to be an issue. DPI and NCN, their full-blown government campaign machinery, not open to other political parties. And so it is the distortion that is a problem. Equal access is what the problem is.
So I said that was going to be my last question,
No,
but then there is
fine.
one I want to pull off the cuff. I
Sure.
don't know where it came from. What are your views on the incumbent, President Mohamed Irfan Ali? What are your views on the ALP's presidential candidate? What are your views on the PNC, the APNU's presidential candidate? What are your views on the WIN presidential candidate? And what are your views on the AFC presidential candidate? You could answer it, or you don't
I will
have
simply
to.
say that they are Guyanese, brothers and sisters, and worthy of of being treated as such. But you know me, I pull no punches when it comes to disagreeing. And my mantra has been, we have to be able to disagree without being disagreeable and being disrespectful. I'm known for calling out Irfan on a number of issues. And so I think people understand my brand to be very, very simple. I'll call you out on the nonsense. I will accord you the respect where it is required, but at all times, my interest is for the people of Guyana and Guyanese. Simona, I am awfully proud of Simona being a fellow female that has taken the bold step of stepping up to leadership. And so, maybe I'm a bit biased in that regard, but we live in a patriarchal society. Big Smith, and I'll end by saying this: the senseless slaughter of that mother yesterday just really brings very sharply into the fore just the way we need to examine and re-examine the way we treat women, the way we respond and treat women who have offered themselves up to leadership, because contrary to popular belief, leadership, if you approach it with the right intentions, is something that is a weighty thing. I think we need to re-examine the paradigm that we've perpetuated over the decades of women having a place, of women being subservient to men. We do not realize how all of these mindsets and the culture and the inculcation that we've had, to use Anil's word, concatenate into what we saw yesterday. That is the result of unchecked attitudes. It is also a result of systemic failure, Big Smith. Mental health is a thing. And like I said last evening, we're losing our women to murder and we're losing our men to rage. And so one of the things that we are committed to is spending resources behind the intangibles, training mental health people throughout the length and breadth of this country, counselors, psychologists, psychotherapists, because it all begins and ends with our minds. Failure, success, everything begins and ends with the minds, and we want Guyanese to have healthy minds, because healthy minds is a healthy country.
Your views on Mr. Norton, Mr. Mohammed, and Mr. Hughes?
I wish them all of the best. They are Guyanese brothers, and they will be accorded the respect that I believe that we owe to each other as Guyanese.
Okay.
Yeah.
One final question for you is...
I mean, I'm sitting in your chair. I'm at your mercy. I'm at your mercy.
What happens after the elections? Mm-hmm. I have a personal problem with political parties that pop up. Mm-hmm. And when the elections are finished, mm-hmm. they're finished too. You don't see them again until that cycle comes again. Mm-hmm. What can we expect of a Forward Guyana movement?
Now, we will be doing the work. I think anybody who has followed me over the last 5 years understand that I'm not afraid of work, and I'm one of the people who will pop up in the moment when I'm needed, and who has no difficulty pounding the ground and meeting the people, to the degree that I've been criticized. Oh, she's always taking pictures, she's always here, she's always there. And so we're here to stay. This is not a flash in the pan. When we say real change can't wait, we literally mean it. And so you will see us continuing to work. We are particularly interested in championing electoral reform. GCOM has got to be reformed. And if that is the one thing that we will flog until Brett leaves our body, then that's it. Because the political system is broken, and a group of people just have to decide that it has to be fixed. And we are that group. And so we're going to be continuing the work. And one of the things that I promise the people of Guyana is that you're going to hear the truth from us. It's going to be inconvenient sometimes. It's going to be hard sometimes. But we're going to tell you the truth. Because we really believe that informed citizens make informed decisions.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, viewers.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. This was an episode of Focus And we were speaking with Ms. Amanza Walton-Desir, the presidential candidate of Forward Gather Movement. My name is Leroy Smith. Do have a fantastic rest of the day.